Is it thinking? Oh, there we go.
Come on, y'all, it's time.
Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do it.
Rolling on the road
With the doc.
rolling on the road,
With Dave.
rolling on the road.
With the doc.
100 shades of diversibility with Dave and Dr. Verity.
All right. That was cool. Yeah. That was all right.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yep, that was the music playing for the intro to the theme.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And good afternoon. You are rolling with the doc today. Dave is on a major assignment today. It's birthday time for the wife, and so he's on assignment. He's on a good assignment today. He is. So it's just me. If you're watching via GRTV 25, the information that you are receiving is relevant and it is not time sensitive. And today is September 17th, 2024. And our guest today is, got everybody ready? Drum roll, please. Our Michigan's first Supreme Court Justice, Miss Kyra Harris Bolden. Welcome.
Good afternoon, or almost evening. Good afternoon. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And as you can tell, she is rolling. And
Yes.
we said good afternoon to Rosalind Harris, who is watching. Thank you so much, Rosalind. She is running for the 10th district. So if you are in the 10th district and you're looking for a city commissioner, she is running as a Democrat. So if you're a Democrat, Rosalind Harris is the only Democrat. I do believe they have two Republicans that are running, but she is the only Democrat for district number 10. September is National Suicide Month, and we are just really excited to be able to take a break today. We have heard so many stories about families and how they've been affected, and I want to be transparent and say the one thing that I truly failed at epically was attempting suicide, and I am grateful that I failed at that. I really am. So if you are having thoughts of suicide or you're in crisis, please dial 988. It is a national number. And on next week, we will have some community resources on. Judge, what is one thing that you really failed at and that you're really glad that you did because it led you to another opportunity?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I literally just think about any opportunity that I thought that I had. It could have been a job. I mean, so many things. And my biggest kind of most public was obviously losing my Michigan Supreme Court race in 2022. But a vacancy became available, and I'm right where I need to be, and I know that there's a reason why I didn't get the seat then, or that particular seat. And so I have really been in a thought process of what's for me is for me. And I don't grieve those failures or losses anymore, because I know that it led me to this moment. But certainly disappointed when I didn't get a job opportunity, or someone didn't call me back, and I thought like, oh, this is it. But everything that's happened has led me to this moment.
I like that. And sometimes we don't realize that it's our failures sometimes that lead us to where we need to be, and not our achievements.
Yes, absolutely. I say now, your failures are a stepping stone to success. I don't know what success looks like without the trial and error of failure, right?
Right.
And failure may not actually be a failure. It may just be a door closed that's redirecting you to where you need to be. And that's just how I look at things now.
Dr. Vertanji, Kendra, she is watching from Detroit. She says, hello, hello, hello. And she wants you to speak about, let me see, can we talk about that? Let me look, I have to look on my paper and see if we can talk about that. They have a particular
Well,
subject.
what was the question? What was the subject? What was the question?
We are talking a little bit about mental health, but is that anything that you would get to talk about in your court?
Yeah, so I'm actually the Michigan Supreme Court liaison to our treatment courts, which includes our veterans courts, our mental health courts, and our newly established family treatment courts, and which is an alternative to incarceration for people that have mental health and addiction issues. And so that is something that our courts are very concerned about, because we know you can't just incarcerate people that have mental health issues, that have addiction issues. It doesn't work, right? And
Right.
so as liaison, I am charged with making sure that our treatment courts have the right resources in order to help individuals. And we have seen, just dramatic successes, and unemployment rates going down for individuals that complete the program, just life satisfaction going up for people that have completed our treatment programs. And so they're highly successful. And as a liaison, I try to make sure that they continue to have the resources and the funding that they require in order to continue to be successful.
How do they get into that? So you're in the Detroit area. Are you in the Detroit area where you serve? So how would somebody on the west side of the state access those services?
Yeah, so every community has treatment courts. If you find yourself just as impacted, and you do have a mental health issue, then your judge can refer you to a treatment court as a potential alternative to incarceration if you meet the criteria. And so, there are individuals that have been addicted to drugs or alcohol, but it's kind of dependent upon the criteria of the crime that you were charged with. Now, not every community has a specific treatment court. Like I said, there are veterans courts, there are family courts, there are addiction courts. So there are different types. But certainly you can see, if you go online, you can see which ones are in your community. And then again, if you find yourself to be just as impacted, that's something that the judge can do through referral.
I read somewhere where it said that you went from writing laws to interpreting the law. And I got excited because what year was that? I think that was in 2019, because I was Miss Wheelchair USA.
Yes.
And we were fighting changing signs, changing minds. And there's a picture of me and a couple of folks were on the floor in Lansing after we got it on the floor, and you guys voted unanimously yes to change what it looks like. I thought that was so exciting when you and I had the conversation, and to find out that you were one of the state reps that said yes to the changing signs, changing minds. What does that feel like to go from writing law? Now you're on the other side of interpreting.
Yeah, it's a really interesting process, but I am just a lover of the law. And so seeing the law in different aspects is really interesting and intriguing to me. So being a part of the process of writing laws and being a part of the front process of, seeing vision and create what you think society should look like, the back end of this thing. Oh, according to our law.
No, you're breaking up. Okay,
Right.
she's
You know, so there, I'm in the cornfield territory. So
yes. I was gonna say we didn't
um,
get anything of what you said because you were kind of frozen and you sounded like a robot. So
oh, okay. And I apologize. I'm going through the cornfields.
so basically,
So no,
it was
it's
going.
wonderful to.
Have you had to interpret a law that you were a part of making or you kind of voted on?
Yeah, I have interpreted laws that I have voted on. None that I was the lead bill sponsor on, thankfully.
Okay.
um, but yes, I have interpreted the law. There have been court cases from cases that I have actually voted on in the legislature. And so to see that back end process of, kind of where the gaps are in the different cases that come up within those, laws that I had voted on is really interesting.
That's the part that I like. Can we talk a little bit about that? Uh, is when you see the gap, how do we do that? Like for me, I went from being on the Michigan Rehabilitative Services, putting together the life plan for those persons with disabilities. And we have to submit to the governor, once every other year, this plan. And then the plan kind of comes together with 2 or 3 other states. They have this consortium with the governors of we have these life plans. And then when I'm on the other end as an advocate, in my role as executive director of 100 Shades, and I see, oh my goodness, we missed some areas. It sounded good on paper when we all came together, said this is how it needed to go. But then on the other side, it's like, oh my goodness, to see the lived experience of the law that we created. How do we reconcile
Yeah.
that?
I think that's why it's so important for people to, stay in that advocacy space and to be in constant contact with their legislators, because it's really impossible to contemplate every single situation and scenario that will come out of a particular law. And that's why you have judges and justices. But sometimes people come to me and they'll express a loophole or a problem, and I say what I do is interpret the law. If you want changes to the law, if you want a gap filled, that is the legislative branch. However, what we can do is if there is a particular set of facts and we're not sure if the law fits into that particular scenario or how it fits into that particular scenario, then we have to make a judgment call on how the legislature, meant for it to be interpreted and to fit that within, our particular set of facts or not. But yeah, I mean, when there are significant gaps, and sometimes as a justice, we have to say this is an issue for the legislature to fix. So there is kind of that, that nuance of interpreting, when things are in the gap versus just changing the law to fill the gap, which would be the legislative branch. And so we deal with that all the time. It's not a perfect system, but I'm glad that there are checks and balances to what the legislative branch and the executive branch does. And quite frankly, sometimes the legislature doesn't like how we interpret something, and they can change the law on that. So we all work together in this system called justice to try to do the best that we can.
Yeah, because the question was, how do you suggest a Michigan citizen make recommendations on creating new laws? So the answer was, you start with, write it out, and then you go to
You go to your legislator. Yep, go to your state house member, state senator. You know, you can email them. Their information is available online. You can tell them your bill idea. I have worked with many groups and many constituents when I was in the legislature. People think are in the law. Sometimes they're feasible to, you know, get hearings and be fixed. Sometimes they're not. You're also talking about over 100 people plus the governor's office that has to, you know, okay something. But that doesn't mean you don't try. So I definitely, if you want a change in the law or you see a gap, you want to change, then definitely start with your legislative branch.
Okay, we got a few comments here. The first one, a few from Ronnie. He says, God bless you all. And he says, his granddaughter and a lot of little girls really admire and look up to you. And then his question is, who was one of the people that you admired and inspired you when you were growing up?
Yeah, so many people. I would say my first direct inspiration was my mother and grandmother. You know, my parents, but particularly my mother, who was in the education field, really impressed upon me the importance of education and really, really taught me I could be anything that I wanted to be. And I think people maybe will downplay that type of messaging, but when you hear something over and over and over again, it undoubtedly will seep into your being, and that's what it did. And I literally grew up thinking that I could be whatever I wanted to be, and that's because it was instilled in me at a young age.
I like that. I probably didn't really get that message until probably after I served in the military. That wow, when I got to my first ship, and I was one of the first group of women to actually be on the ship that I was on, and I was like, wow, there's nothing that I guess can't do. And people always ask me, what is it that you can't do? And I said, probably something that I haven't tried yet.
Right.
So other than that, I don't think.
Yeah, and people underestimate that what you speak into your child becomes their inner voice later on, right? And so if you speak, you know, positivity, if you speak inspiration, if you speak life into, you know, the next generation, that becomes their inner voice of, you know, what they're able to do. So I definitely do that with my daughter, and try to make sure that she has a very positive inner voice.
So she's like almost 2 now, right? She's 2?
She is 2, yes.
Yes. Wow. Time really flies. I mean, I just watched a video of you the other day, 6 days after delivering, accepting.
Yeah.
The nomination. What?
Yeah, I accepted the nomination for Michigan Supreme Court 6 days after giving birth. So yeah, I did that.
She said, I did that.
I did that, yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, postpartum depression didn't have anything to play in there, boy. You just were feeling yourself.
Well, you know, for me, it was delayed because of so much adrenaline and having to be on the campaign trail. And so it didn't really hit me until probably January, when everything kind of, you know, started slowing down and I was starting my job. It started in November, you know, after the election, but definitely really hit me very hard in January. And I definitely sought out a therapist and mental health services because, you know, my body, my hormones, my mental just had been through so much. And I never really took a maternity leave. I think I was 2 weeks, you know, before I was back on the campaign trail full time. and my body just didn't get a chance to heal or rest. And it caught up to me. It caught up to me. I'm going to tell the truth. It caught up to me.
So how long after you delivered did you have postpartum depression? How many months later?
It was about 3 months. It was about 3 months. Yeah.
3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon. Yeah.
It was a year for me. It was a year. Because I think the piece that you talk about is that adrenaline, and there's so much going on, because I had twins and I had them, a girl and a boy. I went back to work in 30 days and they were in the hospital for at least 3 months when they first came. So, and then just dealing with them that whole first year and making it. And it's like, okay, whew, I'm good. They're like, if they make it to 1, then you're good. So when they got to 1, my body said, okay, we can just go, whew.
Right. Yeah, it was really when the campaign was over and there was no, event every day. There wasn't, that pressure to get up and to do something and to work on something. And it just kind of all, it just all hit me. So yeah, I am not absolved. I've definitely struggled with that, and it is delayed for a lot of women, and that's not something that's really talked about. And it does take 2 years for your body to heal itself and hormones to level out, and that's something that's not really talked about that often either.
Now, knowing what you know now, and it's not going to be like postpartum, but that adrenaline of having something to do every day, constantly moving, after November 5th, it's going to stop. So what do you have in place for November 6th?
Yeah. Well, I am ready, willing, and able to rest. I will tell you that. It's not like 2 years ago. Because even in 2022 when I ran, I lost, but I was appointed, so I still started the job, and so I'm starting a new job. I'm still, I have a 5 or 6 month old at this point, and so it was still difficult. So even though I didn't have a campaign, I was still doing events because I knew that I would be up this year, and I wanted to make sure, and not only that, but that the first Black History Month and Women's History Month almost took me out because
I'm
people
sure
just
it
want to
did.
see me, because we made history, which I love and I completely understand. But I definitely really, really overdid it, and so because I didn't really get a maternity leave, because I haven't really had a break, in the last, at least 2 years or so, I am looking forward to just taking some time and just being able to spend time, with my family and to focus on work. And I will still do community things. That's just in me. I will never completely disappear from the community, but I am looking forward to rest for sure.
And what does that self-care look like for you?
So currently, or what will it look like?
We can talk a little bit about them both. What does so like for me, when I decompress, I like to play word blitz or solitaire or put together a puzzle. I have an iPad and I take these wonderful pictures and then I turn the pictures into a puzzle. In fact, you and I are a puzzle now. So
nice. I did that for my husband and daughter. I turned his favorite picture into a puzzle that they could put together. So I love that. So my vice is reality TV. I should probably stop telling people that, but it's just so easy for me to zone out and just, because you have to think about it. I'm reading cases all day. I'm editing, I'm reading, I'm prepping, and it's a lot of mental work to do that. And so people say like, what's the last book you read? And I'm like, my brief. you know, I need to give myself a mental break, because whereas some people may not have, particularly mentally exhausting jobs because you're talking to people, or maybe it's physical labor, my job is mentally exhausting and straining. And so I like to zone out to reality TV. I love a massage. I love a spa day. I do try to walk outside every day and get some vitamin D and some exercise. I do try to lift weights at least 4 or 5 times a week and get make sure I exercise. That has been on the back burner a little bit since the campaign. But yeah, I do my best. I'm trying to eat better, more fresh foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts. Because I was like, when you go to so many events, sometimes you just start eating the food that's available to you. And I started wondering, why I don't feel so great. It's because, I'm going places and I'm eating, mac and cheese and a brownie, just because I haven't eaten anything. So, I had to be really conscious and cognizant, and people make fun of me because I'll go to an event and they're like, please eat. And I say, listen, I have to be really strict about my diet, especially because postpartum, I had postpartum hypothyroidism, and I had to have my thyroid removed. And so, when your hormones,
so you got to start too.
I know, yeah, I know. We talked about that. And so, with hormonal imbalances, you have to eat, you have to exercise. So that's how I'm practicing self-care, is just being more discretionary on what I put into my body, making sure I exercise, getting the occasional massage. And I will also add to that, just being really present in the moments that I'm in. So when I'm with my daughter, I really try to just be present with her and not be on my phone and not, do a lot of work things. I really try to be present in the moments that I'm in and stop the extreme multitasking, which is also stressful.
Woo. Did y'all all hear that? She's present in the moment. That's the big takeaway, because so many times we're not present in the moment. And I think that's what I really miss about my husband the most, is that he always made sure I stayed in the moment. So now I notice, I'm off doing like 5-10 things at a time. And then I'll look over there and I'll say, yup, I feel you. I know, be in the moment. And I'll put everything aside and, watch the movie or have that conversation with someone. But I got this really cool video that just kind of blew me away, that I really want to share, because I did get from your team. They said, if you can fit it in, can you please play her song? And I was like, I could do you one better.
Oh.
And we're going to do like this. And we're going to make this a big. Can I do that? Can I push the button? Oh, wait a minute. That didn't work like that. See, I thought I had all my little technology figured out.
Have a choice. You keep hope alive every time you go, and let us down every time you don't. Who's gonna fight all my family? Who's gonna ride for me? It's KHB. Have a voice. Have a choice. You keep hope alive every time you go, and let us down every time you don't. Who's gonna fight all my family? Who's gonna ride for me?
You know what? I have heard so many folks. First of all, I was honored when I saw the video, because I watch your page religiously. Yes, I do. And I have not seen you make a whole bunch of videos like that with everybody. Okay? Look, okay. So I feel honored. That's first and foremost. But that really speaks volumes to see two Black women together both influencing in their own way. And I love that I come in a chair. You made me feel like I
Yes,
mattered.
you
You
do.
did. Okay, I gotta get my tissue out. That just made me feel.
You know, you do, and you're, you know, you and you know everyone. I think this campaign is just about making people feel included and inclusivity. You know, Michigan is not a monolith. The Supreme Court is not a monolith, and it shouldn't be. We should reflect the diversity of the experiences, and the unique lenses of, you know, our society. And you know that is one of the reasons why I'm trying to retain this seat, because I believe that voices need to be at the table that represent the unique communities that we come from. When we're having these conversations about what Michigan looks like and what statutory interpretation is, not only that, but you have legislators from across the state of Michigan that are making the laws. And so we need those same unique experiences for the people that interpret the law, right? It's so important to make sure that we're getting the answer right. And I am just honored to be a part of the process. And I'm honored to have you and so many others that can help inform, you know, my vision and my outlook of the state of Michigan, to help me make sure that I'm making the best decisions possible.
If you were appointed because there was an empty space, which I think was wonderful, then why don't they continue to appoint judges instead of have you run a race?
You will have to consult the Michigan Constitution on that, and that is above my pay grade. So the Michigan Constitution prescribes two ways that you can become a judge or justice, and I happen to have gone through both processes. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the foremost authority on becoming a judge or justice in the state of Michigan, because most people don't go. I mean, there are people that have gone through both, but I really went through both on a statewide stage. And so the Michigan Constitution basically indicates that, you know, if there's a vacancy, the governor appoints it. If there is an open seat, you know, given a particular timeline, that people have to run for that seat. And, you know, people ask me all the time, like, what would I prefer? Do I think that's right? And what I will say is, in some states, it is appointed solely by the governor. Here, people have the opportunity for direct democracy on who they want to represent them in the decision making of the community. And so, you know, I don't think either is right or wrong. But I do think when people get an opportunity to vote, I always think that's a good thing, when people can have a direct impact in who represents them. So, but there's both ways. And in Michigan, the check on the appointment is you have to run in the next general election after you're appointed. So that's why I'm on the ballot on November 5th, because I was appointed and now I'm running a retention campaign. So, you know, I don't think any system is perfect. I'm running with the rules that were set forth for me. But you know, we'll see. If you all want to change the Michigan Constitution, and then that is above my pay grade.
I do. Thank you so much for tuning in, Shana. Shana is tuning in all the way from Bel Air, Maryland. One of my favorite folks. And Shantae Paul says self-care is vital to your mental health. And she told me that I do matter. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So what, as far as, since you have to run a campaign, what are you standing on in your campaign? What are we getting behind?
So what you're getting behind is experience, first and foremost. Experience, I'm the only current serving justice on the ballot. I'm the only incumbent. And so I think that's really important. You can see my work, it's public, but I don't think just because I'm an incumbent that means I deserve to keep my job, just to be very clear. But I think I've made very good decisions for the state of Michigan. I've authored 8 majority opinions so far. They're available for viewing on the Michigan Supreme Court website. So I invite you to check that out. But also, I am the only person currently serving on the court that has passed bills into law, that understands that process,
That
that very unique process. And so when you're interpreting the law and people say, you're trying to get at the statutory interpretation or the legislative, legislative intent, I have a unique lens into what that looks like, because I have actually passed 5 bills into law and have voted on countless other bills that have become law. Before that, before I was a legislator, I was a civil litigator. So I've actually litigated the laws. And before that, yes, I'm on my 3rd career.
and she only 12, y'all. I mean,
and before that, I was a judicial law clerk. So I was the person researching and writing and drafting opinions for the judge. So, you're getting the experience of a jurist that has authored 8 majority opinions. You're getting the experience of a former legislator that passed 5 bills into law. You're getting the experience of a former civil litigation attorney and a former judicial law clerk. Not only that, but the unique lens I bring to the table is that not only being the first Black woman on the Michigan Supreme Court, but being a new mom, right? And how that impacts cases. Being the youngest, being the only millennial on the court and the youngest to ever serve on the Michigan Supreme Court. I think it's important to bring that lens, especially when we're talking about the law and how it interfaces with technology. When we talk about, me being a new mother, the law, and we're interfacing with, termination of parental rights and things like that. You want someone that has compassion and empathy for these issues and will give it the thoughtfulness that it deserves. And so I believe in me. You have a justice for generations to come. And that is my slogan, and the name of this campaign is Justice for Generations.
And I love it. How would someone end up in your court?
So let me start by saying the Michigan Supreme Court is the highest court in the state of Michigan. There are very few people or entities that can appeal as of right, which means that we actually choose each cases that the Supreme Court will hear. So your case would start in the district court or the circuit court in your community. And if someone didn't like the ruling, they can appeal to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals would make a determination. And then if somebody didn't like the Court of Appeals, their determination, it gets appealed then to the Michigan Supreme Court. We receive about 200 appellant applications per month. And out of that, we select about 20 to 25% of cases that we bring to the full body for consideration. And so usually the issues that we're looking for are things that are jurisprudentially significant, meaning that it has great judicial value, or an issue of first impression that hasn't been considered in Michigan or by the court before. And so there's a very small number of cases we actually take up, but it's a result from cases being filed usually in the district or circuit court and working its way through the system.
But it's not all like we see on television where somebody is appealing because they were convicted of murder and they said, I really didn't do it. And so I'm going to take it to the Supreme Court because I'm in jail now and I want to get out of jail.
We do get those sometimes. We certainly dispose of criminal cases. When I say dispose, I just mean that we make determinations or rulings. And some of the cases will be that someone believes that there's a possibility of innocence or that something happened in the course of their trial that they believe requires them to receive a new trial, or some type of different determination from the judge. So you may file some type of motion, and it might come to us on an interlocutory appeal, which means in the middle of the case, a motion or some type of determination may come to us in the middle of the case. So it may not even just be at the conclusion of the case, it may be in the middle of a case or trial that we may see as well.
See, now we didn't see that on TV. I'm talking about reality TV. Now, see, we watch and it's like, now is
I know. I will say it's not as sexy or dramatic. It can be. We're dealing with some really important issues. It's not a secret that we deal with election issues. It's not a secret that we deal with criminal issues and kind of like hot button issues for resolution at the Michigan Supreme Court. But generally it's not, someone comes in waving a paper and says, I have the evidence. So that doesn't happen.
Dang it. They're going to say,
yeah. Yeah.
And nobody is taking a gun off of the, court and shooting everybody up. None of that stuff.
Not well, I will not say that hasn't happened, but on appeals, charged. I will say that.
Woo. And the family sitting there chanting. So we want to say thank you to Doretha, Myretha, who's turning in. So Shayna says, you are truly amazing. Thank you for showing our community it can be done.
Thank you.
Oh, that's my little Shayna. I love her. I love her. What do you say to your daughter every day? How do you encourage her? I know she's 2, but they know I see some of the things that they're doing here with 2-year-olds. What are some of the things that you say to her to affirm her every day?
Yeah, so I always, every single day, every time I try to notice she does something new, because she's in that age where she's, growing so rapidly. I always try to take the time to say, good job. And I usually say nice work, right? I say nice work, or you worked so hard. Because, I think that, you don't want people to feel like, okay, you get a participation trophy for everything. But I do think it's important to acknowledge growth in children and individuals generally, and attribute that to the hard work that they're putting in, and not just intelligence. So my kid is, I think everybody thinks their kid is intelligent. I think my kid is intelligent, but I'm very careful not to say or reinforce that you're so smart, even though she is. I want it to be the work and effort that she's putting in, because you can be smart, but with no effort, you're not going to go as far. So I try to affirm her support in how hard she works. And I also try to just tell her that she is, she's just great. Like you have to boost up the children. But really, like I said, trying to make sure she knows how hard that she worked, because things we take for granted, it takes a lot of effort for kids, and recognizing that, I think, is very important.
Girl, I know about that. It takes a whole lot of effort for me to get up every day.
Yeah.
And get myself together, which chair am I taking, and how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to get back. That's a lot. Yep. I appreciate that. So we have a question and a comment. Shayna says, what advice do you have for young ladies that may want to follow in your footsteps? And she says, that's right. We have to encourage our children.
Yes. I think along the lines of what I said, one thing, again, you can be smart, you can be the smartest person. I encourage education, but you have to put the work and effort behind it. And one thing I've always said, and no matter what career I was in or what job, no one is going to outwork me. And not
That's for
saying that,
sure.
yeah.
Look, this one right her.
Yeah, and it's not to say like dig yourself into the ground, although if you're in your 20s, you should be working very, very hard. But you have to know that none of this comes easy. And I do recognize that sometimes people can do things and make it look easy. But and I'm sharing, a few parts of my story. And people think or may assume because I'm so young, that things just kind of came easy to me. I worked very, very, very hard and ran myself ragged and poured from an empty cup. I've done it all. And I'm not telling people to do that, but it does take a level of sacrifice and focus and determination and standing on your square. It's not even the work sometimes. It's people telling you can't do it. And you have to have the mental fortitude to continue on, even in the midst of people telling you that that's not for you. And so you have to be very, very diligent. And so when I'm talking about working hard, it may not even be, in the actual job, although I think that's important, but you have to have the mental and emotional fortitude to get the job done as well.
Shana says, that's right, beast mode.
Yeah.
I think that's a piece that is missing. I was telling your crew, we were talking before you came on, and I was saying I had cancer and I had some autoimmune stuff going on at the same time, and I lost all of my hair. But I had 5 head surgeries, and I said, you can see the big long scar. And I said, normally, if your hair is going to come back, they do these tiny zigzag cuts so that when the hair comes in, you won't even know that there's a scar on the scalp like that. But with mine, that didn't happen that way. And I had to do all 5 head surgeries without anesthesia. So I was up. The only thing that I had was just lidocaine, and lidocaine burns. So they had to put in 75 lidocaine needles. So number one is withstanding the pain of those 75 lidocaine needles. And then number two, doing the surgery without being under anesthesia. So I'm hearing them, they're moving. I could feel the pressure of them cutting me open. And that really adds to the fortitude of who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't say, well, I have a headache today, so I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Again, people saw me pregnant on the campaign trail, probably would never have thought that, I was in a dire situation when I delivered, had to have 3 blood transfusions, and, I was in a dire situation. But, again, I accepted the nomination for Michigan Supreme Court 6 days after I gave birth. And I don't talk about it because, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter in the context of who I am, but the important thing is getting the job done. And I worked very hard, but it did not come easily, and it did not come without sacrifice. And so just know that is a part of the journey, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
And it's that piece right there, that people don't understand. And it's that personal, I think, constitution. It's just like if you go to school to become an attorney, there's pre-courses that you take, then there's your core courses that you're taking, and then comes your discipline. Now, once you finish your discipline, you'll become an attorney, you take your test. And it's the same thing. When you've been called to greatness, there is just that above and beyond that you really have to go through so that it solidifies you and who you are and what you've been called to do, because you have to definitely have a thick skin. We do have a question, and it says, is there a significant cost associated with an appeal? And does the Supreme Court ever pick up cases without an appeal? So it's a two-part question.
So we can't pick up cases without an appeal. And again, we don't even pick up every single case that have an appeal. But yeah, that's not process-wise. That's not something that we're able to do. The cost is going to depend upon, the type of case. If it's a criminal case, there's a possibility of getting that done pro bono, or obviously you can pay for an attorney. Different attorneys have different rates, and so it just depends. It depends on how intricate or how exhaustive your case is. We're talking about one issue. Are we talking about an appeal from a motion? Or are we appealing from a whole wrongful conviction, which would cost more? It would be a more intense process. So it just depends on your type of case, what the cost would be.
Okay. Thank you
I know
so much
it's
for
not
that.
a great answer, but
No, it was a good answer. And I want to say thank you so much to Rosalind for her question. And Shayna commented on our conversation just a few minutes ago. She said, "My God, the strength." And I think a lot of times people see the glory, but they don't see the story. And they're just like, "Oh my goodness, you're out there." I love it when people will say to me, "Girl, I saw you with the governor yesterday," or "I saw y'all was hanging out," or "I saw you with the lieutenant governor," or "I saw you at this event." And if you knew what it took for me to get there and be there, one event in particular, it was the governor, lieutenant governor, the mayor of Grand Rapids had an event at a particular location. And where they were going to be, there were 21 stairs and no elevator. There were two people that carried me up in my manual wheelchair all the way up those 21 stairs. But when it came time to come down, I said, no, that it was way too steep to come down that way. And I slid out of my wheelchair and I slid down every last one of those stairs, and like halfway down, took a picture because I said, wow, some people never know what it takes for you to be in the room. You're in that room, but you don't know what it took for me to get there. So to see me sitting on these stairs that are extremely steep, to me, what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think there's more than 1,000 words that's in that picture, though. But I think if we could leave the people with anything on today, I think it would have to be out of this conversation that we really talked about was the resilience and what it takes to be who you are.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but and obviously that's a huge part of it. Not something that I like to dwell on, but if you're talking about how I got to this position, I think that especially our younger generation or even my generation feel like things should come to them quickly and don't understand that sometimes things are literal years of in the making and planning. And that's really important. So just because something doesn't happen for you tomorrow, or just because someone didn't call you back, or just because you didn't get that job, doesn't mean your journey is over. Again, it could be redirecting you into where you need to be, but you have to continue forward.
Absolutely. Shayna says, great show. Thank you. You are so welcome. I appreciate all of you. I didn't get an opportunity to say everybody's name, take everybody's question. There was a lot. I really wanted you to be able to talk and share your story. And I think that we definitely had an opportunity to see you from the inside out and from a different perspective than what you normally give. And we appreciate it. We really do. The time is now 54 minutes after the hour. And if you are watching via GRTV 25, the date today is Tuesday, September 17th. We can't tell you who to vote for. Of course, nobody can tell you who to vote for. But I'm telling you, this is a nonpartisan race when you choose your Supreme Court justice. They're not Democrat, they're not Republican. That's what it means to be nonpartisan. And so you can definitely choose her to stay on the bench on today. And you can still do your voting. You can send in your ballot, or you can wait until November 5th and go in person. Yay. Which
Yes.
I'm going to make a statement by going in person in my wheelchair. I'm just going to wheel down the street and I'm going to wheel in there and show that there's nothing that will stop me from casting my vote. There are way too many people who died before me, for us to even have the privilege to be able to vote. And not only to vote, but we as women were the last ones to receive the right to vote. So I'm going to exercise it. I'm in several categories. I am a woman, I am Black, I am disabled, and I am a veteran, and I am going to exercise my right and vote. And I do love the fact that 100 Shades of Diversibility, we work to improve the life of persons with diverse abilities legislatively, economically, through community partnerships and education. And so we do have the right to endorse candidates. So we are endorsing on today this wonderful woman, the judge. And I cannot wait. Like, yes, I'm like this, I'm like this, and salute. And she says, never give up,
Yes.
keep going. That is so true. That is part of my mantra, is never to give up. Any final words for us today?
Yes, there was a 1 million vote drop off in 2022 between the governor's race and the nonpartisan section. A lot of people don't know or don't realize that judges, your justices, or your nonpartisan candidates are not captured with straight ticket voting. And so you have to bubble in your nonpartisan candidates separately. And then hit straight ticket or do whatever you want to do, but make sure you vote specifically in that nonpartisan race to make sure your voice is heard all the way down the ballot.
Yes, we appreciate you on today. We send all of our love and all of our prayers that you stay covered as you continue to go and see what the end is going to be. We know that it's going to be a good result. We cover you, we cover your family while you're away. We cover the vehicles that you ride in, that there's no unforeseen accidents. Everybody's paying attention. We just cover you with the blessings of the Lord.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for what you're doing. And we love you here. We do.
Thank you. Love you right back. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you. So you guys, on tomorrow with Rolling with the Doc, you will get a glimpse into the rally on last week with Lieutenant Governor Walz, who is running for governor. Yes. So you'll get a little bit of that on tomorrow. You guys be well until we meet again.